And we're finally recording. Sorry, we had a little technical trouble.
We start out with rapid balls and another wonderful, no doubt, very well designed sabotage mission.
They had a Romanian on the design team, I swear to God, because why else would you put Romanian in a video game?
I mean, yeah. I will say it's interesting, like, speaking as someone who knows a little Latin, how pure the word order is. Like, I don't know what he was saying, but I can tell which parts of I I can tell which parts of the sentence are like noun, verb, object, subject, just by looking at it and looking at the endings.
Last time you mentioned you didn't really like this guy as a portrayal of
He's
the
ableist
mentally,
as,
yeah,
yeah.
as a portrayal of the mentally disabled.
You ought not to listen to him.
As
He
a
is not
horror
well in
trope,
the head.
I mean,
His
he
father
works.
had the syphilis. He was born weak. He is strong
By which I mean, it is very much playing off the sort of classic horror deliverance sort of
Hmm.
thing.
And I mean, honestly, that's also worth talking about. Like, because that's,
our land, our forest, not yours.
how do I put
I
this?
mean, that's very it's very obvious. Why is it a horror trope? Because someone who is not quote unquote normal is scary.
Yeah, and it just, in the truest, the deepest parts of horror are just things that are unknown that are coming for you. And it isn't good or evil. It's like humor isn't necessarily good or evil. But it's impossible. It's entirely possible to make something that's very funny and just completely fucked up. And it's possible, of course, to make horror that's awful and racist or whatever.
Cannibal Holocaust comes to mind.
Yeah.
Go, boy. Go clean up that mess you made in the shed. You are not welcome here.
I really like how the character is silent because it gives it an additional like air of farce.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't done anything. He just sort of showed up and just kind of gave you a look, and you're immediately like defending yourself, which says a lot about your guilty conscience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it says a lot about her. But how do I put this? There is a long-standing association with people, people who live out in the hills, and all sorts of assumptions about who they are and what they do. And yeah, it's frustrating for me as somebody who who works in the activist space to see there's a habit a lot of people have of trying to flip oppression, and you see trying to turn it into a like and thinking that that's fighting the good fight. And that you see a version of that happen a lot where people, left-leaning, tolerant people will just spend all day long making fun of hillbillies and making incest jokes. And at the end of the day, I think I may have talked about this before here, actually. Like, if you think, let me put it like this: there's a bunch of different criteria that most oppressed groups meet, and if you want to talk about, say, people in the Appalachians, they actually hit most of them. They hit poverty. They hit like internal facing culture where they don't always engage with outsiders particularly much. They hit lack of political representation. They even hit
I hit a mine.
they hit yeah, that's true. But they even hit there's a lot they even hit uh sexual deviance. And you think of a minority, they probably have some form of sexual deviance associated with them, and it can be anything from rape to being gay, to even not being male if you apply that to women. And for Appalachians, it's incest. But because they exist apart from other groups, and because they've been kind of isolated and recruited by a certain group, like political branch, like political viewpoint, everybody on the left uses them as targets, the last people you can make fun of. And I don't, and it's so counterproductive. It doesn't have to be this way. Those people they're not born Republican. That these are the same people that fought the Cold Wars against the government. Like, there's a lot of union activity that's native to the area. There's a lot of stuff that could be like, it doesn't have to be this way, but there's a certain amount of laziness and assumption that goes into this that people just look over. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense today.
Oh no, it makes sense to me. These people have been abandoned, so abandoned and looked down upon for centuries.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the other LP that you will soon see here? Redneck fucking Rampage. There's a button for you to piss yourself to regain health. It's not it's a I wouldn't say ableist, but it's certainly one of those portrayals of rednecks and hillbillies is lesser.
Yeah. And I think some version of those stereotypes is common to lots and lots of cultures. Like, hill people always end up getting that sort of isolationist associated with clans thing.
Normal for Norfolk.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. And but you see versions of this in like country bumpkins that go back to antiquity. Like, these are just assumptions that people make, and it's frustrating watching. It's always frustrating watching people who are otherwise relatively enlightened, who are otherwise relatively tolerant or understanding, fall victim to it, and then justify it if they get called on it. And they will often just like, what really bugs me is a lot of people will deflect it through jokes, or will try to deflect it through humor, and they will treat it as something inherently different, rather than something that is to be treated with as an actual issue. It gets filtered out because they refuse to consider it as something to be considered, if that makes sense.
It kind of reminds me of that one meme. You can always do an Italian accent, it's never racist.
I mean, well, there's still people. Look, I remember seeing somebody screenshotted our conservatives post where someone was very enthusiastically arguing that Italians weren't white on fucking Reddit in 2020, I think it was. You never know.
I love like looking at what countries claim to be white.
Yeah. So
because I love that sort of weird South American, oh no, we're totally white sort of thing, because it doesn't fucking matter.
and it's
so pointless.
It is. You are fighting
you
over
think
something.
arguing you're white's gonna make someone treat you better?
No, if you have to argue that you're white, the person, if the other person is white, they won't treat you well, and if the other person isn't white, they won't treat you well. It's just not good. It's only flattering
It's
your own
pointless.
ego. Dumb, counterproductive, and destructive.
Speaking of non-white, this episode we will meet the Romani. If you don't know what Romani is the polite term for gypsy. Please do not call them gypsies. That is a very insulting term with a lot of baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents used to live in Cyprus before my mother got sick and passed away. It was these nice, otherwise enlightened Europeans would just go on tirades about gypsies, about Romani people. They would just, oh my god.
It's for me, like, and it's it is immensely frustrating. It's hard to like, yeah, it's hard to say too much about it because I exist outside of that whole cultural sphere, but Yeah, they absolutely, those old stereotypes are still very much alive. And the
I think the
infuriate,
thing that I remember is there was a post on Something Awful I always think of when I think of Romani people, and it's an American and a European arguing, and the American says, "Well, what about gypsies?" And the and the European, it just says skull melts off to reveal face of Adolf Hitler.
yeah, that's, God. And, and speak, like, they were, they were in the concentration camps. Like, they
Well,
were,
so were the gays, and that certainly hasn't helped representation.
I mean, yeah,
The
but,
worst part is after the war, the gays went back to jail because when West Germany took over, because they'd still broken the law, you see, and they had to be punished.
I,
Yeah, sodomy laws are bullshit, and recent Supreme Court rulings have meant that Justice Clarence Thomas explicitly called out Oberfeld versus Hodges,
yep.
which allowed for homosexual activity without breaking the law. He called it out as something that should be re-examined. I know we got a guy who said, I don't particularly care for the leftist commentary, and I mean, I apologize if that's ruining your experience of the game, but I don't know. It's nice to be able to vent about these things, especially because my dad's really weird. He like claims to be a centrist and he supports all these left-wing things, but he only votes Republican.
Yeah.
It's just the weirdest goddamn mix.
And I mean, you get you, people talk about this all the time. Get a certain level of education, you get a certain level of general left leaning.
No, my dad has a
Like,
master's
no,
degree in
I mean,
engineering
I'm
management.
well, he has an engineering degree. There's your problem. Like,
Yeah.
uh, like, do you know how many fucking, like, God, this is something that nobody talks about, but it's worth noting. Like, do you know how closely engineering degrees are correlated with terrorism?
No, I did not.
Oh, they are very they like it, and this holds true for conservative, socially conservative causes across cultures. It's if like I think multiple of the pilots on 9/11 had engineering degrees, and so Osama bin Laden was studying for one before he dropped out of college in Saudi Arabia. And there's a lot of those specific degrees throughout a lot of right-wing extremist groups in the Middle East, because Islamism is how that manifests there. And over here, you get a lot of either engineering or software engineering stuff that's like highly technical on on that in that way. Like, I remember reading articles about going to like various right-wing conventions and seeing how everyone talked about their code and how heavily stuff like crypto is associated with a lot of right-wingers in a couple of levels removed. And if you've ever wondered why, like, you'll get a lot of college degrees that will not let people just beeline down their course list. They have make people take humanities courses if they're going for an engineering degree, or the other way around. They always try to drill into you this idea of a rounded education, and it predates this, but there was a period and there was a bunch of papers published, I think in like 2003 and 4, that revealed this. And a bunch of colleges, most of the high-ranking colleges in the States and a bunch of other ones
Hi there. My
elsewhere.
father is expecting you.
Uh,
Zaha told us,
actually,
Mihas too, that you
I'll
were
pause
coming.
here.
He should be around here somewhere.
No.
Please,
No.
we'll do anything.
No. You will do anything.
Well, almost anything.
Why are they
I
British?
see. Almost anything.
We just want to help. We're so bored.
Because they couldn't get Romanians, I guess.
Yeah.
My light. I expected more from you. And as for you, young man, if
If you are ever going to become the leader you need to be, you must not waver when challenged, or do something simply because you are bored. You need to learn discipline and patience. And the answer is no.
Father.
And if I
There's
see
a
either
lot
of
of
you
accents
skirting
in
your
that
duties
family.
today, I will make you wish you had not been born. Ha! At last, the chosen one is here.
Father, please.
I'm just telling a joke. You'll
I
not
like
be
this
first to
point
come here
that he
seeking
makes here.
glory and riches, and you will not be the last. All of you so eager to be the great hero, to defeat the darkness. Let me tell you about darkness. We Draculesti have been fighting vampires since Vlad Dracula himself founded our order. Half a millennium and change, and many generations of slayers. Now the Kakat is hitting the ventilator again. A great evil is rising. A storm is coming, and so on and so on. I say, business as usual.
I like this guy.
Yeah,
Another
he's pretty great.
day at the office. Is that not what you say back in the real world? You can keep your oracles and your prophecies. We believe in what we can see and touch and fight. But there is just one thing. The difference is, this time, the prophecies may be accurate. I do not like prophecies. I find them counterproductive. If everyone believes the future is already written, they stop fighting, they stop caring. But the Draculesti, we were founded on prophecy. Some things are foretold, and we were once told about the return of a vampire queen, and of darker things. That is why we are here now. Prophecies are usually worthless, but there are things written in signs and symbols that may be of great value. We should never ignore the lessons of the past. And in this case, the past is still very much with us, around us.
Among Us.
I wish I could tell you
Mongus.
more. All I know is that it looks and it feels like everything is in place for what was foretold to come to pass. We are few, and our task is simply to do what we know to do, and nothing more. We need help. The Draculesti were founded on prophecy, and that prophecy remains with us, in signs and symbols. I am not one for riddles, but you seem like the right person for the job.
I don't feel the look at that face. I don't think that's the right person for any job. But
See you next time.
I mean, I get what he's saying, but in my experience, people like in the real world, you don't have actual prophecy. Well, I'll get back to this. Fungal fireworks. Oh, we're going back to the
Take that, Strigoi. Feel the fury of my blade.
Oh, be careful, my prince.
Don't worry, my lady.
really forced.
Yeah, it sounds like the kid who played Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah,
You are
yeah, he
safe, my
does.
lady, from the darkest darkness of this.
Yippee!
Yeah, this is.
You
That's
think you can sneak
Wizard.
up on me? Do you know who I am?
Are you an angel?
God, oh,
Jack
poor
of
guy.
Wallachia,
Don't make fun of him. He's
champion of
suffered
the
more than his
Draculesti,
fair share.
the savior of the world.
Yeah, they fucking. He
Victory!
gave a shitty performance and people ruined his fucking life.
I have slain
I
all the
know, it's so
Strigoi before.
terrible.
I'll take my
God, Star
reward
Wars
now.
fan. Speaking as a Star Wars fan,
Kissing you.
fucking
What?
awful.
I don't want you to kiss me.
Well, I'm not.
Aren't
Good.
they siblings?
God, I hope not.
That's really
That was
weird.
serviceable, but still far from perfect. I heard that the two of you have been leaving the camp again.
He said that he wanted to show me.
She wanted me to show her.
Quiet! Just be happy that Milosh didn't find out. Yet.
He thinks he's some big hero. He keeps forgetting that he's 10 and that his sword is made of wood.
Well, you're a girl.
Girls fight just as well as boys. And he may be only 10 and his sword made of wood, but he's of the Draculesti, and he's brave. Remember this.
I like his hands clipping into his
He
coat.
wanted to show me the fireworks.
the power station?
It was pretty, but there were monsters there also.
The mushroom things.
I see. And have you been told not to go anywhere near the power station, or indeed to leave the camp?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Go. Go! This is not good news.
So as you were saying about STEM degrees in the humanities,
Right, a STEM degree. So, like, if you've ever wondered why a lot of colleges tend to put so much emphasis on getting people circulated, part of that's based in like old liberal arts theory on basically, you're not if you're preparing somebody for one career, you're not preparing someone for anything, and having a broader having to learn things you're not good at makes you more mentally flexible. There's all of that reasoning, but a big part of why that's a thing is specifically because colleges were trying not to get blamed for making more terrorists, but through their engineering programs. That's what was going on there. So that if you ever you will occasionally run into somebody who has an engineering background who will complain about that, and you can if they do the rhetorical, why did they do this? You can tell them so you don't because terrorism, and you will be correct.
I always would have, my reasoning is always, so you Fallout 4, the Institute is the best argument for a well-rounded education
Yeah.
in the humanities.
That's true. That is unlike, we've seen this over and over again over the last couple decades, really. People who have a lot of education in one area and don't know jack elsewhere, who try and make
Assuming
decisions.
they're...
Yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect just kicks in. And you need to have some humility. You need to be exposed to things that you are bad at. You should not, though I don't like how a lot of modern education handles that, because it then punishes you for being bad at that stuff. Because given how, people are leaning off on this, God, I grew up at the height of No Child Left Behind. Grades were everything, so you couldn't be bad at something. That would hurt your future, and that's no way to learn. And I think people are drifting away from this, but...
I never had a problem with bad grades because, I'm one of those autistic people who's just really good at shit in elementary and high school, and then completely fails when they go to college.
Yeah, me too to some extent. I had a 3.79 GPA in high school, and that's because I gamed the system. There are a few subjects I was great at, I went honors in them, and there were subjects that I sucked at, and I went low in them. And, mainstream in them, rather. And because of how the school calculated GPAs, honors classes knocked your points up a bit, so it ended up boosting me and making me look a lot smarter than maybe not a lot smarter, but a lot better at schoolwork than I was. And once I got to college, I dropped down to a 2.9, 3.0, 3.1, depending, GPA, which is probably where I should have been.
My final GPA was 2.7.
Yeah, a lot of us do worse. I work with a guy who's a subject matter expert on a programming language at a bank for the whole bank, and he dropped out with a GPA of 1.2, and he got in through another program and just ended up rising up the ranks because he's good, and he's one of us. And that's just how we work.
I really hate this mission because
Good
it is
Lord.
so annoying to play.
That is awful to play.
And you have to stand in the exact right spot for it to trigger the rest of the lights.
And I am very amused by the mission icons coming in loud and clear.
Oh, just wait. It takes 30 seconds to stop after the after the mission is completed. So it's like, oh, great. I have to sit there and... No, don't go that way, even though it looks the same. Fucking hate this mission.
Yeah, this is Secret World trying to experiment, and it
I mean, as
don't
I've
do
said
this.
before, I
Don't do
appreciate
this.
that they try to experiment, and some of their stuff lands. The lore certainly lands, but some of their stuff doesn't land. I still say if this had been a single-player game with a AAA budget, it would have been a classic. It would have been really well received.
But it wasn't. They had grander ambitions, and well, this is what you get.
Oh, I finally
God, this is
uploaded a
awful.
playthrough of the Ankh onto the YouTube channel.
I'm sorry,
So
I couldn't hear you over the visuals. That was like, oh god. But sorry, go ahead.
I uploaded a playthrough of the Ankh dungeon to the YouTube channel so you could see Dr. What's-His-Face, who is 100% just the bad guy from the original Captain America movie.
God, I don't even remember that. That was... I remember... Man, I tried to rewatch the original Iron Man, and I hated it. It was really gross. Like, I understand it gets better, but, like, I just found it really annoying and unpleasant.
The Marvel movies haven't aged well, especially because there's 10 million of them.
Yep. I remember loving it when it came out, and, like, everyone was really impressed by the movies when they were first coming out. But they just keep doing the same thing over and over.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? Sorry, that you said that and it made me think of that line from Far Cry 3.
I mean, I think that was originally an Einstein line. You know?
Well, I wouldn't know.
I
I just know it was much more intimidating when the crazy guy said it.
Yeah.
And then they've been chasing that high ever since. They've been chasing the crazy person is interesting.
Yeah.
Which is how you got Far Cry 5, aka the worst Far Cry.
I mean, with Far Cry, doesn't that end with them dropping a nuke?
There are two endings. One, you die, and two, they drop a nuke, and you get brainwashed into the bad guy's minion. You do not defeat the bad guy until the optional sequel that's like half the game map and post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Someone loved that character a lot, and that person should be shot.
Yeah,
Because I could not stand that guy. And not in the way where you're supposed to not be able to stand a bad guy, just, oh my god. And none of the cutscenes were fucking skippable. I do not want to listen to your OC fucking rant about the Bible.
That is a really nice model.
Yeah. You're not supposed to fight these, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
That's why it's so tanky. Sorry.
Well, just,
I fight this for a couple minutes.
Really?
It is... What's supposed to happen is you do one of the missions and the generators overload and weaken them. Like they get a stat debuff. But I didn't know that at the time because I never do that mission other than once. That's not one of the missions that I repeat if I ever go through here.
I do hate it when you are just in a situation where it is just a damage race and you only have so many health items. I downloaded, I don't know if, I know there's like a billion games named Fate, but there's an old Diablo clone called Fate from like 20 years ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, I was never really into Diablo or those sorts of games.
Yeah, it works.
I was playing Neverwinter Nights.
Yeah, this is the this game is Diablo with a very bright and happy coat of paint. It's just the mechanics, and you also get a thing. And you go into literally a dungeon, just level by level. And it is very mindless, but it's pretty fun. And it's all procedurally generated and 20 years old procedural generation. So you often end up just banging your head against brick walls all the time. But, sometimes that's what you're in the mood for.
Yeah, the rest of this video is just fucking around in this power station, and it's not the only one where you mess around in this power station. I have no idea why the fungi are here in this forest. Obviously, they are filth-infected fungi, but
That's
there's
how it
also
works.
a lot of them. There is also a lot of them in Tokyo, and they're really annoying in Tokyo because they're like super powerful.
Mhm.
Oh god, it's so annoying going to the shipyard where all the fungi are in Tokyo.
Hello.
From the bottom of my heart.
So yeah, there's a lot of. It's funny watching what is it? The weird thing people talk about prophecy being demotivating, but in real life, that's basically how any ideology that has a vision of the future works. And then can be telling people you are destined to win can be extremely motivating rather than demotivating, at least as far as I've observed. So you get people who will do anything because they know that it's going to pay off. It's like a cost benefits analysis thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of a slump now. I hate that you can never access this fucking map ever again.
And you just get one look at it.
One look at it. So now you have to mess with lever
Oh yeah.
puzzles.
I mean, I would have just taken a photo of it with my phone and kept my phone open next to me.
I didn't think to do that, so I just sort of futz around in here.
Okay. Then I will, I don't know. I'll accept my victory over you, I guess.
See, look,
Yeah.
I immediately
Yeah.
go back. I'm like, oh
Oh
god
god.
damn it.
Oh fuck. Yeah. Again, questionable design. And one of the worst, I think, a silent a silent axe in this game's back is how you have to wait to activate things. And it's necessary because, this is an
It's an
MMO.
MMO.
There's always lag, and that's what that's for. But it makes every interaction take a second. So things that would normally take just a few seconds for you to do a few clicks take like a minute, a solid minute, and it just grinds. It's just intolerable. And I think that's one of those minor gameplay issues that people don't think about because they just it's an assumption you make about the medium, but it has a massive negative effect over a long period of time. That shit sucks.
Yeah, we're kind of a little shot on things to talk about now.
Yeah, that's that. Like, I don't know. We're we I'll have more to talk about once we hit like Romania. Not what am I talking? Talk post-Soviet stuff. But this is just like, I mean, this is probably post-Soviet, but it's Transformers. Once we get to the point where we're looking at actual bunkers and shit, then I'll have more to talk about.
Yeah, we do a lot of super soldier stuff in part 3 when we're in the mountains.
God,
Really love how the only thing you have to do is destroy those towers, but they're almost invisible against all the other towers.
little annoyances are the things that kill this game. I remember years ago. Have you ever played Just Cause 2?
Yes! Oh my god!
I remember.
Just Cause 2 and Just Cause 3 were so good, and Just Cause 4 was such a disappointment.
I never played Just Cause. You know, I never played Just Cause 3 because my computer at the time couldn't keep up with it. But my current computer might. I should actually dig out my controller. It might be worth trying some point.
Oh, it's so fun. I like to make ships into airships.
Yeah, I do remember. God, what reminded me of those gas canisters, because when you shoot them, they go zooming off. So you hookshot a guy to the canister and shoot the canister, and the canister will drag the guy off into the air. God, that game was so dumb in the best, just in the best possible way.
They follow that up with Just Cause 3, and they give you even more toys.
It really is the kind of... It's the kind of game where you just hijack a plane, fly it, and then just get out. You know, you're a wizard. You can just hookshot yourself to the ground, and that won't make you hit the ground even faster. I do what like I well. Do you remember finding the hooker airship?
Yes.
That was. I found that before I had the relevant mission, so I just stumbled across. I think I was doing that. I hijacked a plane on the way to somewhere. I was looking for a way to get out, so I saw it. I got out, and I fell past it. Didn't manage to hook myself onto it and died. But then I came back and got on it, and like, it is a whorehouse in the sky. It's a strip club. Like, I mean, you know, it supposedly is a whorehouse, but it is just a strip club. And it's so weird seeing it there out of nowhere. It's loud techno playing over the lush hills of Southeast Asia.
Now they want me to use the wire on the air brake switch. What the hell is an air brake switch? I am not an electrical engineer. Yep. I feel like the guys in King of the Hill, just sitting there.
Just sitting there going,
Yep.
I never liked King of the Hill. I respect it.
My mom would let me watch South Park. My mom would let me watch The Simpsons. My mom would not let me watch King of the Hill.
What? Why? Was there ever a coherent reason, or is it just...
We think it's because something about it reminded her of her childhood, and she did not have a good childhood. My grandfather was a very, very bad man.
Yeah. Southern Illinois is definitely southern enough for that to be a false positive there. I can see that. But, like, I never really...
Did you just make a comment about the South, about hillbillies?
No, the comment I made is King of the Hill is a southern show, and Southern Illinois is a part of the South. So I can see, and you said she's from like around Cairo, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I can see why I can see how that would remind her of her childhood. Nope, you can't catch me that easy. I'm more self-aware than that.
Yeah, see how much easier it is to kill this guy?
Yeah. I love how Sonic has the time to type out these 3-paragraph essays in response to every mission. And they're
I
all
100% believe he dictates that to a secretary.
yeah, uh, that he has to. And he has to do it while pacing back and forth in his office gesturing. He has to make sure by the end of every line he has to frame himself against that. I bet he keeps that photo, that angel painting specifically so he can frame himself against it and look like he has wings. It's
And
just
a
as
halo.
yeah, just to suit his ego. Like he's doing good work while he does it. He just has to make sure he does it with style.
Yeah, I futz around here with this mission a little bit too. Because you're supposed to look at all of the puddles in a row to spawn an enemy, and I don't know that, so I just sort of wander around looking at puddles not in order. Not in a row, rather.
Yeah, yeah. So many things in this section that are striking me. Like it's old adventure game design. It makes sense to the devs and no one else.
Mm-hmm.
That always like I mean I am terrible at adventure games. I don't have the kind of logic like if you there's certain I don't know why because I know it's not an autistic thing because I know plenty of autistic people can do this. Like I don't have any real spatial sense for organizing things. Like
Oh,
if you
that's a huge detriment.
like it, let me put it this way. You know how there are games that want you to design houses or design bases or something?
Yeah.
I can't plan for whatever reason my brain does not work that way. I will not be able to plan anything out. Like if I make Minecraft, if I make a building, it's going to be a square. It's just going to be a gigantic cube of whatever the most interesting looking wood is. I will not be able to plan rooms. I will not be able to plan sections. If I play Dwarf Fortress, I just sort of I follow a template somebody came up with and then just improvise. I can't plan ahead on it. I don't know why. It just doesn't. I don't enjoy it, and I struggle to do it. And
See, I thought you meant spatial, like rotating a 3D object in your head.
No, not like that. I can do that just fine. There are people who can't, and that can be an issue. But like designs, I don't know if there's a term for it because it's very specific. But it's like there's certain kinds of puzzles and certain kind of problems that I cannot sit down and think through. My brain just bashes up against it. Like, oh, have you ever seen the Towers of Hanoi?
Yes.
I
am not good at that puzzle.
I'm terrible at it. The reason I'm terrible at it is because, there are people who can look at that and, like, think it through and go, I have to do this and this and this and this, and get those, that's how I get those plates over there. I cannot do that consciously. If I'm lucky, I can do it subconsciously. Like, I can kind of guess where things are going and sometimes get it right. But if you try and sit me down and explain what I'm doing, I can't. I don't know what that is.
That reminds me of German 985 because he once played the horrible Saw video games. Yes, they made 2 Saw video games. I don't know why.
Of course they did.
Anyway, he played Saw 1, and there's some of his funniest streams because he gets increasingly more unhinged at the shitty puzzles. But one of the puzzles he did, and he mentioned he has never known how to do this puzzle. He just randomly presses buttons until it works. Was the, press one button, 2 other buttons light up puzzle.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Same here. I can't do. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's like, I have that same reaction. I can often figure them out eventually, but I cannot tell you what I'm doing or how that works.
Oh god, you would hate Zork Grand Inquisitor because there is a door puzzle. Do you know how you solve it?
How do you solve it?
You have to cast an unlock spell on one of the doors so you can make the pattern work.
Well,
It's a trick. It's a trick, you see.
and
Because you will never be able to do it unless you unlock one of the doors so it fits the pattern.
oh, yeah, that one I would never figure out on my own, but that's because I'm terrible at that. This is like, I think it has to do with changing. Like, I'm not that afraid of that puzzle, because I listened to that, and, like, I can hear, that's just one change that I can keep track of. And it's like making something fit a pattern. But I cannot keep track of multiple moving parts. I don't know.
My favorite, Zork Grand Inquisitor, I recently went and replayed, and I had not played it in over 20 years. And I remembered every step to win it because it was just in my brain. But my favorite was you go to hell. To call Charon across the river Styx, you need to use a phone. The phone is automated. It's a phone tree. The phone tree is like press 3 to press 7. It is literally the phone tree from hell.
God.
And we're done. We're finished. Thank you for watching.